Hey guys, so welcome back to my top 10 favorite Shakespeare plays. If you haven't seen the first part, I'll link it down below. It covers kind of an honorable mention up until number 6. So before I go into talking about today's play, I just want to give you a quick idea of kind of how I create these lists. Because I actually use a point system, I'll usually create the list 3 or 4 times, sometimes a little bit less, and sometimes I'll use different criteria for different lists. And then I'll give them the points, so top one will get either 10 or 15 points, all depending, and then it'll count down from there. And then I add up the total points, and whichever one wins hits the top of the list. And of course, the fact that I use multiple lists is kind of gaming the system, but the point is to get my opinion across a period of time. My honorable mention from last time got 5 points, whereas, Richard II got 7, Julius Caesar got 9, Mashaду got 14, Romeo and Juliet got 15, Macbeth got 21, and then our current play today, which is Henry IV Part 1, got 22. So very, very close. Macbeth and Henry IV Part 1 were super, super tight in this running. I kind of want to go back through that at some point and figure out where the switch happened. But yeah, so that's kind of how I determine these lists. So today I'm going to focus mostly on talking about why Henry IV is important to me and kind of how I got into it. I'll probably do more analysis in some later videos, although there might be some here. But I'm hesitant to go into a full analysis here because with the way I am with this play, I could literally spend hours talking about it. I don't think any of us have time for that right now. So, I wrote down a couple notes here. First thing I have for Henry IV Part 1 is Prince Hal is the Slytherin of Slytherins. He is such a Slytherin. For those of you who don't know who Prince Hal is, he is the Prince of Wales in this play. He is the future Henry V. And at this point in the story, his father, Henry IV, who is a usurper, has been king for a number of years now, and he's getting nervous because there is a rebellion going on, led by his former supporters who helped him gain the throne. And they are not very happy with how they've been treated. Whether they are valid in their complaints or not is a different debate. I'm not going to touch that here. But they are currently trying to usurp him again. And one of these rebels, Hotspur, who is real name Harry Percy, but he's just called Hotspur most of the time, he is seen to be what an ideal prince would be. He's heroic, he's brave, he is charismatic, he's very loved by a lot of the people, but of course, he is rebelling. And Henry IV is quite envious, I think I would say, towards Hotspur's father, because his son Hal is not an ideal prince, at least he isn't perceived as one, because he spends most of his time hanging out with criminals, literally. There's a scene in this play where he and a couple of friends go and rob some pilgrims basically for fun. So yeah, not what you would consider good crown prince material. Until you see Hal alone, and he explains to the audience what he is doing. Now, don't get me wrong, I still think that his actions are kind of questionable at best at times, sometimes worse, but his plan is interesting because he has thought through everything he is doing. His goal here is to make sure that everyone underestimates him, because he's actually also a very, very charismatic leader, quite tactical, in some ways even more so than Hotspur is. But he's using these abilities so that to kind of mask himself and make himself seem like a non-threat, and then he's going to kind of all at once show everyone what he's actually like. The point is he's going to shock everyone to the point where they kind of just go along with it. And it's really, really interesting seeing how he plays this out. Like, don't get me wrong, he struggles with it, because you can tell that even though this is his plan, and it always has been, he does legitimately care about the people he spends time with. He cares about his friends, he cares about Falstaff and Poins and all of the others. Doesn't end up working out very well, but you can tell that he does legitimately care about them, in particular Falstaff, who is kind of his surrogate father figure, and oftentimes contrasted with Henry IV. However, his father is not aware of this plan. Hal hasn't told anyone. No one knows. And so as a result, his father is very, very stressed by the fact that his son and heir is so ill-suited to this role that they could lose their position very easily. Like, he was not meant to be king. He was the cousin to the king. He was meant to be the Duke of Lancaster. And then through various circumstances that happened in Richard II, he ended up becoming king. And now he is terrified of what's going on. He's also facing rebels. and he's facing rebels that won the war last time. And his heir is basically making him look weak, is making him look bad, and on top of that, he knows that if he dies and Hal becomes king, their dynasty is done. Like, because Henry V, or the man who will become Henry V, does not look like someone who can be a good king. He looks like someone who would abandon all his responsibilities and the kingdom would just fall apart. Like, that's what Henry IV is afraid of at best. So there's some very intense confrontations between these two. Now, and as for how I found this play, I found it when I was 13. I had just started reading Shakespeare for the first time. I wasn't reading any of the histories yet, but I decided to just go through SparkNotes and read all the summaries of the plays just so I'd know. And so that's how, when I read the summary of this one, it sounded interesting at the time, but I didn't really get into full study mode with this one until 2012, when the London Olympics happened and The Hollow Crown Season 1 was released on the BBC. The Hollow Crown is a TV series. The first season is 4 episodes, covering the first 4 of Shakespeare's histories, or chronologically the first 4. They were not the first 4 written, which are Richard II, Henry IV Parts 1 and 2, and Henry V. So this was included in that. And the cast is insane. It has Patrick Stewart as John of Gaunt, which is Prince Hal's grandfather. It has Jeremy Irons as Henry IV. It has Tom Hiddleston as Henry V. Michelle Dockery and Julie Walters are also in this movie. It also has Simon Russell Beale as Falstaff. Like, the cast is nuts in this thing. And it's very, very well done. Like, I do have problems with this adaptation, don't get me wrong, but it's a very well acted production. I really, really like Tom Hiddleston as Prince Hal. He really, really gets inside this character's head, which I really, really enjoy. Hal has quite a few soliloquies. For me, he sometimes feels like a more hot-tempered, less grief-stricken, much more action-prone Hamlet. He is kind of, if Hamlet was an action star and a little bit less philosophical, he might be something similar to Henry V. So yeah, that's kind of part of the reason why I love this character, and it's kind of, this play has always been high in my rankings. I'm honestly surprised it's as low down the list as it currently is. Basically the only reason it's ranked as low as it currently is because some other plays have a much higher nostalgic factor for me than this one does, so that kind of messed with the rankings a little bit. In terms of which play I would prefer to watch, this one would actually probably be number 2, but it gets messed with a little bit because of, yeah, like I said, nostalgia factor. So yeah, really good play. I would totally recommend it, especially since Hal is a very complex protagonist. He is at heart well-intentioned and he is heroic, I would say, but he does make some mistakes, and if you read his full arc, he can actually be quite scary at times. He's not a pure black and white character, which I really like. So yeah, thank you guys for watching this. If you have any comments or questions, please feel free to mention it down below. I am always down for talking about Shakespeare, or anything really, but you know. Anyway, thanks guys. Have a lovely day. See you later.